It's time for NFL Daily. What is going on with Tom Brady's hand? Harris and Cam have all the updates on the Patriots QB. Plus, Josh Allen is going first overall, and Joe Thomas might be retiring. Stay tuned for all your NFL rumors from the day. Later in the program, who could be a surprise cut this offseason? Michael Crabtree is certainly on the list, but so is his sparring partner, Aqib Talib. And close your eyes, Cowboys fans, Dez Bryant is on our list as well. We're wrapping up the show with some Super Bowl odds to get you ready for Conference Championship weekend. It's NFL Daily time. Let's get it.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hey folks, and welcome into NFL Daily on this Thursday evening. Cam Rogers coming at you alongside Mr. Analyst here, Harris Rubenstein. Thank you for tuning in to this live program here on Facebook. This is Chat Sports, and we've got a lot to get to, Harris.
We do. Cam, Massachusetts, Boston, and the entire New England area are losing their collective minds because of Tom Brady's apparent injured throwing hand. We got all the updates. It's wild.
We have all the updates, of course, in our rumors segment, so let's get into it. We'll start things off with the Goodell head scale here, Harris. So every rumor we go through, we will give it a certain amount of Goodell heads, or the absence of a Goodell head. As you see right there, 0 Goodell heads means this rumor is fake news! Exclamation point. If there is 1 Goodell head, there is a small shred of truth to the rumor. We're going to give some credibility, but we're not buying into it. 2 Goodell heads. The people are talking out there, you know, 50-50 situation. 3 Goodell heads, more probable than not, to use the terminology in the Wells report, of course, Harris.
Don't even.
And 4 Goodell heads, we're calling it fact news. So it's going down. Now, Tom Brady breaking his hand. That is rumor number 1 here, Harris. What do we know? We're
going to give this one 2 Goodell heads. People are most certainly talking, Cam, because if you look at taking the spectrum of this entire situation, so apparently he injured his hand on Saturday, during a practice, and he dislocated his finger. But the broader part of this is so much more interesting because if you look at it, he has actually been flexing and shaking his hand all season long. There is a report by Jerry Thorne of Barstool Sports. His source says that Brady apparently broke his hand way back in the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Whether that is true or not, we can't 100% say, but we're giving it 2 Goodell heads. People are talking.
Certainly, by the way, Brian Hoyer is talking as well, had a big-time media presence surrounding him, asking about, you know, the proposition that he could play on Sunday, and he says he's always ready to go, man.
What's even better is that they keep asking all the players on defense. They've asked Kyle Van Noy, one of the linebackers, and Devin McCourty, the captain of the defense. They ask him, how did Tom Brady look? And they all keep saying the same thing. Oh, he looked great. He's the most handsome guy I know, this and that. Like, they keep answering it the same way that it looks great. But I'm telling you, this is getting even crazier because Brady didn't practice today. And for the people that don't know a lot about Tom Brady, we should at this point, he never misses practice. Unless there's something seriously wrong or they're really playing something cautious, he does not miss practice, especially a couple days away from a conference championship game at home. I think there's something going on behind the scenes with this hand. Not to mention he didn't practice today. When he was around during the media warm-ups, he was wearing a glove on that right hand. And if you look at his thumb, it looked pretty bulky. So you might have a brace going on in there. I think there's something going on here. I don't know if it's broken. Definitely dislocated a finger. That was reported by Ben Volin of the Boston Globe. But there's, I'll put it this way, Cam, when there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on here. And this is also funny. Classic Patriots trying to control the message. Diana Rossini tweets out that no Patriot player will say who ran into Brady.
Because that's how the jammed finger apparently happened, right? Somebody ran into Tom Brady.
And I can tell you one thing, it is a good sign that that player's head is not on a pike outside of Gillette Stadium. But we'll say this, watch out for this, because this may very well be a danger. We might have Blake Bortles versus Brian Hoyer in the AFC Championship game on Sunday. But Tom Brady at this point, according to Jeff Howe, will play, but at the same time, this is all wild.
Bortles versus Hoyer. Boy, would that be a fun one in the AFC Championship. Not a premier matchup there. This guy, a premier left tackle, Joe Thomas, has been a premier stonewaller at that position for the Cleveland Browns. And, you know, Joe has been a part of trade rumors in the past and all this kind of stuff. Now he's a part of a potential retirement rumor, Harris.
Yeah, and it's kind of come down to that he hasn't even made a decision. But according to him, he's gone back and forth a couple of different times. He told them that he was going to make some sort of difference with this. We're going to give this 2 Goodell heads. And with those 2 Goodell heads, we're going to give it a 50-50 chance as well, because guess what? Joe Thomas is giving this a 50-50 shot of him retiring or coming back. If you look at some of his quotes, he says, I don't think there's any real rush at this point. Obviously, they want to know before draft and free agency. I told them I'll make a decision when I'm ready and let them know and give them as much time as I possibly can. So we'll see. He says he's making progress. He's going back and forth with his family. He's owed $8.8 million next season. So if he is off the books for the Browns, obviously they get a lot of money back. But at the same time, you kind of want Joe Thomas to come back if you're the Cleveland Browns, because he is still one of the best left tackles in all of football.
If you're Sam Darnold or perhaps one Josh Allen, who we're going to talk about right now, you definitely want Joe Thomas at the left tackle position, because Mel Kiper in his mock draft 1.0, if you will, has Josh Allen going to the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, don't even get me. Oh,
Harris, we're giving this one head.
Get me started on this. Get me started on this. All right. So for Mel Kiper Jr. came out and said that the reason that he put him at number 1 is because he only cares about tools, and that, quote, stats don't matter and are for losers. Now, he used that. Now, it's interesting he said that because all the times he said that Lamar Jackson to be a wide receiver, he brought up his completion percentage, which is that a number, Cam? Is that a number?
That would be a number.
Oh, that would be a number. Thank you, Cam. I appreciate that. Look, Josh Allen is not going number 1 overall to the Browns, and if he does, the Browns are honestly pretty dumb. They should take Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. Don't take Josh Allen, who, mind you, in the Mountain West Conference was 6th in passing yards and 5th in completion percentage.
Is that good?
He was horrible. He was so bad. He was one of the worst graded quarterbacks that Pro Football Focus had last season. And look, if John Dorsey likes him, the new Browns GM, then fine, so be it. But would you rather have a USC or a UCLA quarterback who's actually performed well, or would you want to have the guy who came from Wyoming who's been bad for the entire season? I'm going to take the 2 sure things. Josh Allen picking number 1. We're giving this 1 Goodell head. No, thank you.
All right, so not much credibility to this one, that this could
Come
go
on,
down.
Kiper,
but
you're better than this.
We'll see if Kiper changes course here. So there's Josh Allen as our rumor number 3. Rumor number 4 now, Matt Ryan, staying at the quarterback position here, could get a new deal.
Reportedly a priority for the Atlanta Falcons this offseason. He's currently in line to make $19.25 million. We're giving this 3 Goodell heads because he is certainly going to get an extension. I believe so. They are coming into the number that's going to be, as has been put, Kirk Cousins' range. So they believe that it'll be around the $30 million a year mark. They want to extend him apparently past at least 2021. So I think they're going to end up doing this. This will make him one of the 3 highest paid players in the NFL. But from an opinion standpoint, I don't think this is a good idea at all. We've already seen the peak of Matt Ryan's career. He's not exactly getting better. I think it's going to be a mistake. I think giving him $20 million a year is a fantastic contract. I think that's fine for both sides. But if they want to give him an extra $10 million a year to keep him happy, it's their checkbook, not mine. But I wouldn't be doling out that kind of dough to a guy who's peaked already.
Supply and demand, my friend, and that's the way in which the quarterback position works in the NFL.
Speaking of that,
there is Matt Ryan, and the next rumor on our list here, Mike Vrabel. So could he be the Titans' new head coach? He had his second interview today. Yep. And we're giving this 2 Goodell heads, so the people are swirling. Two
Goodell heads. People are definitely talking about this, Cam. I'm going to give this a 50-50 chance as well because, look, Mike Vrabel at the same time, I think he'd be a really good head coach, but at the same time, he's only been a defensive coordinator for 1 year. We saw last year that a lot of the offensive coordinators the head coaches that were a coordinator for only 1 year did struggle. Anthony Lynn, it took him about 8 weeks to get his team under wraps, and Vance Joseph's Denver Broncos fell apart after like the first 4 games of the season. I think Mike Vrabel needs another year. For me, we've kind of compared this to what we saw with Brian Flores, the Patriots linebacker coach, and a couple other names like Matt Rule. This is how he gets his name into the NFL head coaching kind of swirling rumors. I don't think the Titans are going to hire him. I think Matt LaFleur, the Rams offensive coordinator, would be a good option, maybe Steve Wilkes as well. But the Titans are coming at this in such an interesting angle because we don't know where they're going to go with their head coaching position because they're so late to the party. It took them so long to fire their previous head coach that they weren't able to actually get someone like a Josh McDaniels or like a Matt Patricia. So we'll see what ends up happening with Mike Vrabel. The Titans, I don't think he'll end up going there, but good for him to be in circles.
All right, 2 Goodell heads for Mike Vrabel going to the Tennessee Titans. Final rumor here, J.J. Watt. You may recall he broke his leg in Week 5 against the Kansas City Chiefs, was out the rest of the year. Now he is running on a treadmill. Posted a Twitter video today, and he says he'll be good for training camp. We're giving this 3 Goodell heads. So essentially, we are saying it's more likely than not that he will be good to go for training camp.
And this is also reported by KHOU.com, which is one of the local stations down in Houston, that he will be ready to return for training camp. We're giving it 3 because we don't know exactly when during training camp he's going to get there, but he's back. He's getting healthy. He'll be fine. He obviously broke his leg in Week 5, and they put him on IR. It'll be interesting to see what J.J. Watt comes back to because he definitely hasn't been the same player with those back injuries that he has been in the past. Obviously, beforehand, you can make an argument he was on his way to maybe going down as the best defensive lineman of all time. I mean, he was so unbelievably dominant. We'll see what happens with J.J. Watt. I think he's going to be fine for camp. I think he's going to come back fully healthy. The back will be rested. The leg will be healed, and he'll be ready for another big season. Jadeveon Clowney will be there, and they also get Whitney Merciless back as well. And if they get to keep Mike Vrabel, that's going to be one fearsome defense for the Texans. So good news for if you're a Texans fan, and bad news if you're a quarterback in the AFC South.
By the way, Deshaun Watson coming back as well.
There you go.
Very positive news for the Houston Texans.
Look at the AFC South getting feisty. I like it.
There you go. Your latest NFL rumors here on NFL Daily. Cam Rogers coming at you alongside Harris Rubenstein. We are presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Harris, I believe Shakira is coming to town here in Dallas. You can use the Game Time app for that. Fantastic website.
She is January 28th. You can get her tickets right now on the Game Time app as well. Put it this way, if you want to go to a Dallas Mavericks game, hey, how about this? This Monday, the 22nd, how about $4?
Boom.
$4 on Game Time for a Dallas Mavericks. That's 3 hours of entertainment for $4. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Chatsports.com/tickets is the website. That's how you can check them out online. Download the app as well. Get that app right next to the Chat Sports app, and you are ready to go as a sports fan. So, Game Time, sponsoring NFL Daily here, and we're going to take a look at the playoffs because, of course, we got to get set for Conference Championship weekend here. Let's take a look at the potential Super Bowl 52 matchups. And we have the spread for each one. So we're power ranking them in terms of headlines and intrigue and all that good stuff. So at number 4, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Jaguars are actually favored, Harris.
This should just show you how much Vegas despises Nick Foles. Because I understand the Jaguars obviously have their fantastic defense. They did just give up 42 points to the Steelers. But at the same time, Nick Foles not being able to be favored, this Eagles team not being able to be favored over the Jaguars, they have the best record in the NFC, and they aren't even favored over the Jaguars? I can't even believe that. Vegas despises Nick Foles.
Number 1 seed.
They were underdogs against the Falcons at home.
They're underdogs this
week at home, and they're going to be underdogs against the Jaguars in the Super Bowl. It's crazy stuff. Vegas hates Nick Foles.
So, any intrigue at all with this matchup in your eyes?
Funny.
Any intrigue with this?
The intrigue is, how fast is it going to take the Jaguars to score a defensive touchdown on Nick Foles?
That's fair.
Is kind of what the question is. But I also kind of think this would be a minor ratings nightmare. I know the Eagles obviously have a massive fan base, but Jaguars, Eagles.
No thanks.
That's not there.
All right, so Jags, Eagles at 4. Let's take a look at number 3 here. The New England Patriots taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Sean Warnke in the comments section saying he wants this matchup to go down. Patriots favored by 7 here.
I think this would actually be a really fun matchup because while the Eagle, it is still Nick Foles versus Tom Brady, I think the Eagles defense would actually pose a decent challenge to the New England Patriots. This wouldn't be just a massive blowout like Vegas seems to think here, the 7-point spread in the Super Bowl. You got to be careful with these Super Bowl spreads, especially since we've seen the past couple of years, these games have always been so close, except for the Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks fiasco of a couple of years ago. But I think this would be a really fun game. But at the end of the day, I just can't fathom Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl. I just can't. Like, Blake Bortles, fine. If he wins a Super Bowl with that defense, okay. But Nick Foles with a Super Bowl ring, It's a little too much for me to bear.
Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb are not walking out of that tunnel. So that's, of course, the matchup that the Patriots faced in a Super Bowl earlier in the 2000s. Okay, so the Patriots and Eagles are at number 3. Number 2, a defensive slugfest.
This would be awesome.
Jaguars, Vikings. Vikings favored by 5.5.
Obviously, it wouldn't be awesome for the New England Patriots fans out there, but it would certainly be awesome, I think, for NFL viewers. Again, wouldn't be great for ratings because Jaguars, Vikings, not exactly the biggest fan bases, but this would be a really fun game to watch. Arguably, actually, I don't think it's an argument. These are the 2 best defenses in football. So the Jaguars going against the Vikings would just be a total slugfest. I would love to see this. I think the Jaguars will give them a run for their money because, again, you put up Case Keenum against that kind of defense, I don't know what he's going to be able to do. The Vikings being favored by 5.5 points at home should show you how much respect Vegas has for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, they didn't really have it in Foxborough. It was a 9-point spread. It's jumped down to 7.5, but Jaguars-Vikings 5.5 spread, I think that'd be a really fun game to watch.
So the Vikings are in the number 2 slot here. Yep. They're also in the number 1 slot with the New England Patriots. This is the matchup that I projected, Harris, going into the postseason. The Patriots, though, favored by 3, actually have the Vikings winning the game.
Yeah, this would be an interesting one. I personally think that you've predicted that the Vikings would be the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I think we don't even know it could happen because a home field advantage Super Bowl, I don't even know what kind of effect that would have. What would the fan split be like? Would it be like 70-30 Vikings to Patriots? Would it be 50-50? Like, how would it split in terms of fan bases? Would it just be 90% Vikings fans because they would just buy all the tickets right before just because they're at home? I don't know how it would go. I think it'd be an awesome, awesome environment if the Vikings get a home Super Bowl.
We're on Facebook Live. We want you reacting and voting. Which Super Bowl 52 matchup do you want? Patriots versus Eagles, Jags versus Eagles, Pats versus Vikings, Jags versus Vikings. Throw in your respective votes, the hearts, the likes, the laughing faces, the wow faces out there. Harris, from a third-party perspective, what do you want?
I think from a third-party perspective, it has to be Patriots-Vikings. You get the crazy team of the century versus the first team to ever have a home field advantage in the Super Bowl. I think that kind of matchup is so interesting, but wouldn't it be the most Patriot thing to do to go up against a team with the first home field advantage in a Super Bowl and just crush their souls? That just sounds like a thing that Brady and Belichick would do to that poor fan base.
Throw in those votes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on board with you. I would like a Patriots-Vikings Super Bowl as well. Brady versus that defense would be very fun to watch from an X's and O's standpoint. All right, so let's summarize our power rankings here for Super Bowl 52 potential matchups. Patriots-Vikings, Jags-Vikings, Patriots-Eagles, and Jaguars versus Eagles. This is NFL Daily, and I'm Cam Rogers. That guy right there is Harris Rubenstein. We're going along here on Facebook Live. We just power ranked the potential Super Bowl 52 matchups. So let's power rank the quarterbacks in the playoffs right now. And boy,
deep breaths, everyone.
Tom Brady and literally everybody else. Let's take a look at number 4 here. Blake Bortles. Well, he has 2 playoff wins.
Really? Blake Bortles under Nick Foles?
Yes.
See, this is a surprise to me because, he wasn't terrible. Okay, never mind. He was horrible against the in their first playoff game, but he wasn't terrible against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
He's worse than Nick Foles.
He was good. I don't know. I'll put it this way. I think they're just dead even. I think they're both equally as bad. But Blake Bortles being a number 4 at this point, it's going to be so interesting to see what Blake Bortles does in an AFC Championship game. I cannot remember the last time that a quarterback with his reputation ended up in an AFC Championship game. I have no idea. I can't believe it. I'm stunned. I can't believe that we're sitting in a year, in an NFL season, where Blake Bortles has two playoff wins. He has as many playoff wins as Michael Vick.
That's a great stat.
Or road playoff wins, excuse me, as Michael Vick. Like, him and Joe Namath are tied for road playoff wins as well. Blake Bortles, I don't get it.
We don't know the NFL anymore. No, that's safe to say.
It's chaos.
Blake Bortles is at 4, so St. Nick is at 3. There he is. And you know what? I'm giving John DeFilippo a ton of credit. Quarterbacks coach for the Eagles has done a fantastic job with Foles in just kind of getting Nick Foles into a groove. It's not about Nick Foles trying to be Carson Wentz. It's about Nick Foles essentially managing the game, right?
I don't even know if it's managing the game as much as it's just make sure that Nick Foles doesn't lose you the game. Whether if you want to call that managing, fine, but
look at that stat line against the Falcons. That's what the Eagles want.
It was, and if you
No turnovers.
if you look at what he was throwing there, it wasn't like he was trying to throw these huge passes down the field. I mean, 23 completions for 246 yards is about a little over 10 yards of completion, which is still good, but that shows me a lot of dinking and dunking, a lot of slant patterns, a lot of ins and outs to keep the ball away from the middle of the field and away from opposing defenders. The only way they're going to beat the Vikings is if they do not turn the ball over. And Nick Foles, he's usually pretty good at not turning the ball over, but we've never seen Nick Foles in an NFC Championship. Can't believe Nick Foles in an NFC Championship game. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, they should be fine.
All right, so Foles is at 3.
Oh, my God.
Process of elimination here. Case Keenum at 2, quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and has had the pleasure of pretty good pass protection so far this year. He kind of had an off game against the Saints, but came back at the end.
Lena, don't move this yet. Before we move on here, I got to point out one thing. We talk so much as NFL analysts and networks and this and that, how much it matters to have a great quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Brady, this and that, but look at the other 3 quarterbacks on this list. These are the remaining 3 quarterbacks
amazing,
outside of Tom Brady. I can't believe it. I can't believe that Case Keenum is the second best quarterback left in the 2018-2017 season playoffs. I can't believe it. Case Keenum, former Houston undrafted free agent quarterback who went to Houston and, by the way, got cut. Then went to the Rams and got cut. Now he ends up on the Vikings, was behind Teddy Bridgewater, who then blew out his leg, and then Sam Bradford, who had to get injured in the middle of the season. And now Case Keenum is great and winning playoff games. And I can't fathom this. The chaos meter for me is way too much. I can't do it anymore.
Keenum versus Foles in the NFC Championship game. There's Case at number 2.
Show me Brady, please.
Which means one Thomas
Thank you.
Brady checks in at number 1. I will
it.
say this, Harris. We could put in Brian Hoyer, which means Case would be number 1. Hoyer would be last. Bortles 3, Foles 2. But you know what? We'll stick with the more likely scenario here. Tom Brady will play.
Just digging a huge ratings grave if it's Blake Bortles versus Brian Hoyer. Isn't it just incredible? He was given the Pro Football Writers of America MVP award this past week as well. 40 years old, but at the same time, it doesn't matter what he did this season. All that matters is what is that hand like and how is he going to play on Sunday. He's definitely going to play, but I don't even know what would happen if he went through that game and someone he got sacked and he injured his hand even worse and they had to take him out in the middle of the game. I'm pretty sure Boston as a city would just implode and just I don't even know. I don't even want to call any of my friends if that happens. I think they'll be kind of stunned.
So Tom Brady is definitely going to be playing Blake Bortles on Sunday. Could be playing either St. Nick or Case Keenum. Any of these guys out here, can they out-duel Brady, or are you going with the laughing face?
Out-duel is in play better than? I'm going to go with the laughing face. Now, if you're telling me that the teams can out-duel the Patriots, then I'll believe you, because I think both the Jaguars and the Vikings have a decent chance to actually beat the Patriots, but I don't think it's going to come at the hands of these quarterbacks. Unless Case Keenum has a couple more Minneapolis miracles in his back pocket, I don't know if he's going to, quote-unquote, out-duel Tom Brady. We'll see.
So throw in your respective reactions, folks. Yeah, I'm going to go with the laughing face here. If I had to pick one of the quarterbacks,
Nick Foles, right?
It'd probably be St. Nick.
What?
Yeah.
It
probably would be.
I was totally kidding.
I'm being serious.
He was my last option.
St. Nick, baby. I'm on board. All the Eagles fans out there know that if they watch the Cam Rogers show. All right, folks, this is NFL Daily. We're sponsored by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets. Check it out. Download the app. Harris, you're a big fan.
I am a big fan. Wherever you're watching us from, I guarantee if you get the Game Time app right now, you will be able to find great tickets in your area. If you're in Boston, I'm sure there's great Celtics and Bruins tickets. I'm sure if you're from Philadelphia, you get some great Flyers tickets at a good price as well. 76ers too. Go use the Game Time app. Cheapest tickets that you'll find.
If you're a sports fan, you got to get the Game Time app. And if you're a sports fan, you might also be a bit of a bettor out there. So we've got Super Bowl 52 odds. Let's take a look at number 4, the long shot, if you will, the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 650.
I'm actually a little bit surprised that they're at number 4, considering what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We can be honest with ourselves for a second here, Cam. I don't think either of us thought the Jacksonville Jaguars, not even on the Steelers, this is just in general, could score 45 points in a playoff game. I didn't even think that was remotely possible that a Jacksonville Jaguars team with Blake Bortles could score 45 points.
In this economy?
I didn't even think that was possible, but it's great to see them actually in the playoffs and doing well. The AFC South in the past, ever since Manning left, has been a non-factor in the NFL. Now we had 2 AFC South teams, and now we have one in the AFC Championship game. I think it's great for football.
All right, so there are the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 4. The Philadelphia Eagles are at number 3. By the way, folks, if you're watching, you'll notice that these kind of fall in line with our QB rankings here. So the Eagles plus 625.
Again, it's just interesting to see them because I always wonder, where would they be if Carson Wentz was playing? Would they have the number 1 odds? And I think that's always going to be the true question that every Eagles fan is going to ask themselves. If we lose this game, if we had Carson Wentz, would we have won? And that's kind of one of the painful things about sports is when you lose someone like him that's so impactful, that can switch the game in such a crazy manner. It's going to cause you to ask questions for the rest of your time. It's like me as a Patriots fan. I ask myself every day if the Patriots would have won the Super Bowl in 2008 if Brady didn't blow out his knee. It's just these are the questions you ask yourself
what if
as a
game.
sports fan.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, so there are the Eagles at 3. We've got the Vikings at 2, plus 210 in terms of their odds. I am going all in on Minnesota, Harris. As you know, I got them winning it all. What do you think about the prospects of the Vikings getting it done at that number?
You know what? I actually think this is a good number to actually put some money down on. If you drop $100 and they win, you get $200. So I think this would be a really nice bet if you're out there and you're looking to put money down on something. Don't bet on the Eagles. The Eagles might not actually make it out of this round, but this Minnesota Vikings team as a home Super Bowl, get in now while you still can. Because if you go into next week, and we've actually gone through this on this show, if the Vikings and Patriots match up, the Vikings might actually be favored depending on how well Tom Brady plays this weekend. So if you want to get a little money now, get it in before it's a little too late.
Buy in. All right, so the Vikings are there at 2. The Patriots are the favorite to hoist the Lombardi Trophy plus 105.
I'm surprised. Yeah, at this point, you're not really making much money, are you? Look, it's just incredible. Here we are. The dynasty started with 3 Super Bowls in 4 years back in the early 2000s, and now here we are. There's a possibility that they could bracket the franchise with 3 Super Bowls in 4 years on both sides, winning back-to-back Super Bowls with a 39 and 40-year-old quarterback. Flabbergasting. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it in the history of sports.
All right, are you betting on Super Bowl 52, folks? Who you got? Where are you throwing your money at? Harris, if you were to throw some bills down,
if I were to throw some unbiased bills at any team, I'm going to throw money on the Vikings. Plus 210 is still really nice. You can still make a decent chunk of change on that, and there's an actual decent chance of them winning. And also, maybe throw $5 down to the Jaguars because you never know what's going to happen. Never know.
Blake Bortles, you kidding me?
I'd bet $5 on Jalen Ramsey winning a Super Bowl at some point in his career. That dude's got it.
All right. You know, I might throw a few bills down on the Eagles just to spite you.
Well, don't throw anything down on the Bills. Never bet on the Bills.
Oh, I said the Eagles.
I know, but don't even mention Bills.
Oh, okay.
Not a good idea.
Oh, I see where you're going. There you go. Well played. All right, let's summarize the latest odds in Super Bowl 52. Patriots, Vikings, Eagles, Jaguars, the favorite all the way down to the long shot here. And there you go. Of course, those odds will change as we head into next week because there will only be 2 teams left. So there you have it. NFL Daily here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I am Cam Rogers. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. He's Harris Rubenstein. Follow him at Sportstein. All right, buddy. So for a lot of fans out there, their teams are not in the playoff field. So they're looking towards the offseason, free agency, potential salary cap cuts as well. We've got our rankings, counting you down from number 10 to number 1 for potential salary cap cuts. Let's get to number 10 here. Tamba Hali, linebacker for the Chiefs, a fixture of this franchise. It's possible he retires here, Harris, and second in career sacks for the Chiefs.
I feel like every single year we have Tamba Hali on some sort of list, or we see him on some sort of cap cut list, and they just keep bringing him back. And at this point, it's mostly for his leadership. He means so much to that franchise. He's also great. He doesn't play a lot of snaps anymore. Only 116 total snaps this year. They're paying him a ton of money. I think this is finally the year that they let him go. His best years are obviously behind him. He's 34 years old.
They're dealing with injuries too.
Yeah, it might just be time. But I got to say, here's the real question for Tamba Hali. is he a Hall of Famer? It's difficult. Definitely not first ballot. Probably not second ballot. But I think once you get into the later half of his Hall of Fame candidacy, you might actually get to push it across the line. 89.5 total sacks, was an icon for this franchise, sat around while they went through multiple rebuilds, the Larry Johnson years, the Jamal Charles years, and now here we are with the Alex Smith era. He's been there the whole time. I think he was a pretty iconic character for an iconic franchise, and usually that's enough to get you noticed.
So Tomahawk with a Pro Football Focus grade of 54.2 could save $8 million on cap space for the Kansas City Chiefs. And like I said, injury-riddled season for him, Harris. Played only 20 snaps per game this season. So looks like he is on his way out and perhaps could retire. But really, much respect to Hawley. Really a fantastic player to watch.
Really fantastic career. I mean, if it's time, it's time. Just one of the best DNs that we had in football for a pretty long time.
Could be time for Orlando Scandrick to leave Dallas. He's checking in at number 9, 30 years old. $8.2 million salary over the final 2 years of his contract. Hits the Cowboys salary cap for $5.3 million and $5.6 million for the next 2 years here, Harris, and they got some young defensive backs on that team.
For the big fans of Chat Sports out there, they know that we have a show here called Cowboys Report, hosted by our own Tom Downey and Brett Scott. They talk about Orlando Scandrick a lot and about how it's probably time for the Cowboys to move on. They gave out $4 million guaranteed to another corner named Nolan Carroll, and then now they have so much money that they're giving to Orlando Scandrick, they got to just cut bait and start letting these young kids play. Chidobe Awuzie, Xavier Woods, Jordan Lewis, maybe move Byron Jones around as well on the back end of that. Don't start Jeff Heath, but definitely start moving around those young guys. I think it's time. Again, 30 years old. He was one of the worst corners in all of football this year.
Which, by the way, is sad, Harris, because when healthy, he used to be pretty darn good.
He was pretty darn good for a
corner.
long time. He was, and you know, if you kind of go back throughout the years and you look at the Cowboys defense, he was always one of the fixtures on it. But sometimes once you get to that 30-year-old, 31-year-old mark, kind of like with Joe Hayden on the Browns, it's just time to move on.
So Orlando Scandrick is in at number 9. Let's go to number 8 now. Randall Cobb, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. 4-year, $40 million deal after his impressive 2014 season, but it's been bad pretty since.
It's interesting because you have to ask yourself, if you're the Packers franchise, do you move on from him and Jordy Nelson? Do you only move on from one of them? Because they can't really afford at this point to pay both of them. They have to pick one. And to be totally honest, and I think you might just pick Randall Cobb. I understand that Jordy Nelson might have a higher ceiling as a player, but he has shown no ability at all to be the same player that he was before that knee injury. And Randall Cobb is still an effective wide receiver. 66 catches, 653 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's a good slot receiver. He's definitely helped Devontae Adams in terms of nurturing and helping him grow into the player that he is. But look, Devontae Adams just was given a massive contract to be their number 1 guy. They still need a slot receiver, and they have Jordy Nelson on the other side. If they want to give this group of guys one more year, I'm talking Randall Cobb plus Jordy Nelson plus Clay Matthews, then go ahead, do it one more time. But you cannot end up like the Philadelphia Phillies and end up with all these old guys that you're paying, and your team is just bad.
All right, so Randall Cobb is at number 8 here, and it's really odd to say that he's like on the decline. He's not that old of a player, but the problem is he's going to be limited to a slot receiver kind of role, I think. 55th ranked receiver according to Pro Football Focus this year, and he's just way too expensive at this juncture. So Randall Cobb at number 8 could be on his way out of Green Bay. Number 7, we'll stick with the wide receiver theme here. Michael Crabtree. Serious case of the drops this year, had that fight with Aqib Talib, etc.
I don't entirely agree with this one. I think if you're the Oakland Raiders and you're looking to get some sort of sustainability or regain your sustainability on offense, you might just have to keep Michael Crabtree and try it again. Like, what are you going to do? So let's say you cut Michael Crabtree. You have Amari Cooper who's coming off of again, a really bad year. So you have a bad Amari Cooper year, and then your next wide receivers are Cordarrelle Patterson, who doesn't play wide receiver? Question mark? Like, they don't have a lot there. They're going to have to reshape their entire offense if they get rid of him. I think they give this group of guys one more year. It really also depends on what happens with Marshawn Lynch in terms of, you know, do they want to let him come back? Is he going to retire? But I think Michael Crabtree deserves one more year. He has been really good for them. He did have a bad year this year, as did Amari Cooper. But I think that also has to do with a lot of the offensive play calling. So give it one more year, see how it goes. And then if he's bad at the end of the year, then you can cut him. But $7.75 million for number one wide receiver with his ceiling, I don't think is the worst thing in the world to pay.
All right, so there is Michael Crabtree at number 7.
This next one's hilarious.
By the way, if they cut Crabtree, no dead cap money for the Raiders.
Yeah, so
good savings.
It's a win-win. Obviously, like his cap hit isn't like $9 million. 7 3/4 is not terrible, but at the same time, they need to be confident that he's going to have a comeback season.
All right, so Crabtree at 7. Let's get to number 6 here. Martellus Bennett, tight end for the New England Patriots. Retirement is an option here with Bennett. Reports out there that, you know, he wanted to move on to New England because he wanted to get that ring, and perhaps if he does get that ring with the Patriots, then there you go. You can kind of move along here. The Patriots could save $6.5 million in cap space, and really Bennett this year has been a reserve for the New England Patriots behind Rob Gronkowski. Gronk is the guy. Bennett you can move on from. And they got some young pieces at the tight end position as well, Harris. So Martellus Bennett, foregone conclusion in most people's eyes. I think he even knows he's moving on.
Yeah, it's definitely time for him to go. And at the same time, it's also a little bit sad. He is one of the better guys in the NFL. Well, not one of the better. I should say not after this season after he kind of screwed over the Packers. But him going to the Patriots was a huge fluke. What I meant to say is that he's one of the most interesting guys in the NFL. And seeing a Bennett brother leave the NFL definitely takes away some entertainment value. But him going to the Patriots was a complete and total fluke. Let's not kid ourselves here. This wasn't some serious thing that he was going to be this big-time addition. It was like, we're going to sign you. Are you really injured? Yeah, you're pretty injured. All right, go on IR, and if we win a ring, you can have one. It was a real big fluke. I think it was kind of just for fun. Give him a ring, let him retire, and let that be that. I don't even know if he'd get signed if he actually came back next year.
All right, so let's recap what we have so far, Harris. Let's go from 10 to 6 here, and we've got Tamaha Lee for the Chiefs, Orlando Scandrick for the Cowboys, Randall Cobb for the Packers, Michael Crabtree for the Raiders, and Martellus Bennett for the Patriots, all potential cap cuts. Which one is the most likely in your eyes?
For me, the most likely one is Orlando Scandrick. I think it's time. Well, Martellus Bennett is kind of a difficult one, too, because he's probably going to retire, so I don't know if that really counts, but I think Orlando Scandrick has to be the way to go. Let the young corners take over. Let your second. The Cowboys have really tried to reshape the secondary the past couple years. They pumped so many young assets and value and draft picks into that area of the field. So if you have to move on from a 30-year-old cornerback to let Awuzie and Jordan Lewis really get those reps that they need, it might just be time to let them go.
So we got one Chief on the board so far. How about another one? Derrick Johnson, linebacker for Kansas City, all-time leading tackler. Unlikely to take a pay cut, so it could be time.
Yeah, and the writing is also on the wall because the Chiefs brought in his replacement this year in kind of a savage fashion. They traded for Reggie Ragland in the middle of the season from the Bills, who, by the way, when he was on the Bills, he wasn't good. He came to Kansas City. He was outstanding in the middle of that defense. He was really, really good. So if you're the Chiefs, you're like, wow, we've never had a proper replacement for Derrick Johnson. Now they do. Younger, faster, stronger, the whole works. But the leadership and the history that he brings to that defense is so valuable. Like we have on screen there, the Chiefs' all-time leading tackler. He's been a Pro Bowler 4 times. He is 35 years old, so he's definitely on his way out. But I would bring him back again because, look, the Chiefs' linebacker core is not what we call good. I brought up Reggie Ragland, but after that, there really isn't anything. I think bringing back Derrick Johnson isn't really a bad move. I would be okay if they brought him back, but at the same time, saving $8 million to cut a 35-year-old middle linebacker smells like it's time.
It's enticing, no doubt about it.
If the Jets would do it with David Harris, who's 31 years old, and the Chiefs have a chance to do it with a guy who's 35, it might just be time.
Let's stick with the linebacker theme here. Take a look at Clay Matthews for the Green Bay Packers. This would be a bit of a stunner. But look at that cap savings number there, Harris. It's pretty enticing.
It is enticing, but at the same time, you have to remember what he brings to the franchise. Yeah. While it is $11.4 million cut Think of what he brings in jersey sales and jersey sales, and ad revenue, and just an overall superstar to the team that outside of Aaron Rodgers they don't really have. He's on national commercials. He's in ads. He looks great. He's on social media.
Got the hair.
It's Clay Matthews, and I think if you're the Packers, you want him to retire as a Green Bay Packer. You want him to, I don't know if Clay Matthews is a Hall of Famer or not, but you want to eventually have him in the Ring of Honor or whatever the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame is. Let him stay. Let him retire as a Packer. He probably only has about 2 or 3 years, or maybe 1 or 2 years left. $11.4 million. I think it's worth it. 7.5 sacks for him still isn't that bad.
Missed a couple games this year with groin and hamstring injuries.
He misses games. He missed games back when he was in his prime.
Recently had, quote, cleanup surgery on his knee.
Clay Matthews has had more surgery than like anyone in the NFL. That dude is injured every single season.
Certainly more robust than, say, a Randall Cobb.
He'll play like 10 games, and in those 10 games get 7.5 sacks, and, there you go.
Move along.
That's his career.
Clay Matthews at number 4. He's a Green Bay Packer. So is this guy, Jordy Nelson.
It's time.
This was a very odd year for Jordy. Turning 33, never surpassed 79 yards receiving this year. Yes, you have the Brett Hundley effect, but even when Aaron Rodgers was in at quarterback, Jordy struggled. And it seems like he's just going to be limited to being a slot receiver at this point. He's lost some speed, Harris.
Yeah, he was really good last year coming off that ACL injury. He ended up with almost 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns. And then this year in 15 games, 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Maybe he's just not the same. Maybe it finally took a year to catch up to him. Maybe the age has caught up to him. Maybe it was just Aaron Rodgers not being around and that lowered his statistics. But $10 million, the Packers have so many areas of need in terms of that defense and what they need to do with the rest of the team. I think it's a little bit too valuable. I think it's time for Jordy Nelson to go.
So we're asking the fantasy owners this one here. I'm sure they felt the brunt of the pain with Jordy Nelson's campaign in 2017. Has Jordy passed his prime? Harris, I'll say this. He certainly passed his prime in terms of being a legit outside receiver. I think there's still something there with playing in the slot. But here's the deal. Averaged 9.1 yards per catch and finished with 9 straight games under 40 yards receiving. So that evidence shows to me that he's not winning on the outside. He's not getting the separation needed. Maybe you got to move him inside.
He's clearly lost his step. And if he does want to move inside and he's okay becoming more of a slot or that kind of receiver, then fine, you can go ahead with it. But a $10 million slot receiver, when you already have Randall Cobb, who is also getting paid as much as he's getting paid, about $9 million a year, I don't know where he fits. They just gave Devontae Adams so much money. They have so much cash locked up in the wide receiver position. It might just be time to move on.
Josh chiming in. Jordy is only as good as the quarterback that throws to him. Very interesting point.
Maybe, yes. Then if that's the case and you truly believe that Jordy Nelson's going to be that much better with hopefully a full season of Aaron Rodgers, then go ahead, bring him back. But God, look, the Packers had so many other issues outside of Aaron Rodgers being injured. The defense was a disaster. The offensive line fell apart when they were injured all season long. The running back core took like 8 weeks to get going. They have a lot of other needs, and that $10 million is going to be really, really necessary for them to make the change.
All right, we'll stick with the wide receiver trend here.
Bring me Dez Bryant.
Dez Bryant is a potential cap cut. He refuses to take a pay cut, Harris.
Good, and do you know what? Fine, I understand that, but Dez Bryant, look, it has been a notorious thing for me, at least in the Chat Sports office. I think Dez Bryant is bad. I don't think he's good anymore. He drops very important passes at all times. At all times, he is zero chemistry with Dak Prescott. Tony Romo was his quarterback, and I love the same excuses we always hear about Dez Bryant. Oh, he's nicked up, he's injured, he struggles against good corners. I don't want to hear it anymore. You're paying this guy he's one of the highest paid wide receivers in football.
Due base salaries of $12.5 million in 2018.
He's supposed to be the star wide receiver of this team. Here are his yardage totals the past 3 seasons. 401, 800 yards, 800 yards. The year he had 400 yards, he played 9 games. I have Cowboys fans tell me, oh, he was injured. 400 yards in 9 games, a number 1 wide receiver does not make. I don't want to hear this anymore. It is time for the Cowboys to move on from Dez Bryant and actually invest some assets that in the wide receiver position that are young and have chemistry with Dak Prescott. This whole Dez Bryant charade, it has to end. He hurt them so many times this year by dropping important passes. He's a diva off the field. I'm sorry. I'm not a Dez Bryant fan. It's time to go. Let him go.
A few notes on Dez here. So
I'm done.
The 3 seasons since signing a 5-year, $70 million deal, he's missed 10 games with injuries and has only 147 catches for just a shade over 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. Has not had a 100-yard game since November 13th, 2016. We have to go back past 2 Thanksgivings to find his last 100-yard receiving game.
Number 1 wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. We started the season with Tom Downey challenged me to come up with 10 wide receivers who were better than Dez Bryant. I could probably name 20 wide receivers now who I would take over Dez Bryant. I'm done. Send him to a team where he isn't going to have terrible chemistry with a young quarterback. No thanks.
All right, so the story on Dez Bryant real quick here. The Cowboys could kind of follow this DeMarcus Ware blueprint. So back in 2013, Ware had 6 sacks, and the Cowboys, transitioning to a 4-3 scheme, decided to cut Ware, who was 31 at the time. The Cowboys had no clear replacement. And oh, by the way, they're doing all right now with DeMarcus Lawrence. Same deal here maybe with Dez. So they cut Dez. No clear replacement at number 1 wide receiver. Maybe they go to the draft and the Cowboys are successful.
But that's fine because at this point you bring in a lot of young wide receivers. It's going to take a couple speed bumps to obviously get to where you need to be on offense. But the Cowboys have done this already. They've pumped so much, I guess, draft capital into the secondary. They can do the same thing with the draft. Sign a couple guys. Just move on from a guy who is hurting your team. Get rid of Dez Bryant.
All right, so Dez is at number 2 in terms of potential cap cuts this offseason. Number 1, Aqib Talib. Harris, I put him here because cornerbacks are so highly coveted in the NFL, especially one like him.
This is really difficult, and I think if he did end up getting cut, I think he would get signed by another team to a really short-term, high-value contract, maybe like a 2-year, $20 million deal, because as kind of a mercenary corner, he's still really good. One of the best physical corners on the outside. I'm still a big fan of Talib's. I think he can still be a big-time player for any football team that needs a really physical outside corner. It'd be a shame to see the Harris-Talib duo be split up, but Bradley Roby's been really, really good since he's come to the Broncos. They just gave him a decent, or he hasn't given a contract. He's owed $8.5 million this year with his rookie contract. So it might be time to move along, but if it is, it will end one of the best quarterback duos we've had in a long time.
All right, so there's Talib at number 1. Let's summarize our potential cap cuts. There is Derrick Johnson, Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson, Dez Bryant, Aqib Talib, 5 through 1, and then 10 through 6, Tama Hali, Orlando Scandrick, Randall Cobb, Michael Crabtree, and 1 Martellus Bennett. There in our rankings. This is NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. Many thanks to them for coming along for the ride here on Facebook Live. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets is the site. All right, Harris, we got NFL Daily tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We got previews for Conference Championship Weekend. For Harris Rubenstein, I'm Cam Rogers. We'll see you tomorrow.